Story 1. Oh, always a good question, original poster. In case you do not get enough answers to this common question, I have provided a few links with some variations. First link from 4 days ago. Also, a YouTube video on the Reddit subject. Have fun in the rabbit hole. Story 2. Critical thinking. It's essential for making informed decisions and navigating today's information overload. Yet many people are not taught how to do it effectively. Story 3. Critical thinking. For the love of God. Understanding what makes a strong argument and recognizing the signs of an exceptionally weak argument. Learning how to take in information and reach a conclusion for yourself instead of just sheepishly following others because they vote the same, believe in the same things, or because you hold them in high esteem. It's like the vast majority of people don't want to think for themselves because it's simply easier to parrot the chosen narrative and float through life on a cloud of confirmation biases. Many people don't argue with their brain or with any logic. They just raise their voice, insult, or quickly resort to violence as a means to safeguard their prechosen beliefs. Story 4. The ability to recognize when a person isn't good for you. Many people think they have to associate with a person for whatever reason, but if that person is harming you physically or mentally, you have the power to leave or remove them from your life. This goes for both friends and family. Story 5. Emotional intelligence. Understanding and managing emotions, both your own and others, is crucial for building strong relationships, resolving conflicts, and navigating life's challenges, in my opinion. Story 6. Public speaking, speaking to a crowd, and speaking to strangers. Do this well and confidently, and your life will immediately improve. Ideally, your parents should have taught you these skills. Story 7. Basic financial literacy. It's surprising how many people don't know how to manage their money, understand credit, or invest for their future. It's not taught enough in schools. Story 8. Learning how to have fun on your own and loving your own company is very important. Otherwise, you may hang on to toxic relationships or do things that can drag you into a mess due to peer pressure. All of it stems from the fear of being alone. You don't have to be on your own always or throughout, but should the situation arise, you must be comfortable with that alternative. For that, one needs to take out time to just be by themselves from time to time. It's like training oneself and figuring out that you will be fine even if people aren't around to support you. Story 9. Understanding media, journalism, propaganda, advertising, opinion, and conspiracy thinking. This is the most important thing right now, but it would be hard to find teachers compromised. Story 10. Basic cooking skills. Knowing how to prepare simple, healthy meals can improve well-being and save money, yet many people rely on takeout or convenience foods. Story 11. Problem decomposition. Most people associate problem with the manifestation, not the actual root problem. The ability to drill down into causality is a crucial step in design thinking, allowing you to create solutions effectively. This applies to any aspect of life. Also, compound interest. Story 12. Not thinking you know everything. It's okay to say, I don't know. Also, when someone asks you a question, don't say, just Google it. Instead, say, I don't know. My friend makes me feel like an idiot sometimes. Story 13. The ability to delay gratification. And no, I'm not talking about edging you degenerates. I'm talking about investing in your education, saving for retirement, paying cash for things tomorrow instead of taking out a loan today, tackling your hardest tasks of the day first thing in the morning, and so on. Story 14. Self-governance. Not needing to be told how to obtain information on something. The ability to figure out the who, what, where, when, why, and how with easy steps. It's even more critical to have these skills now because remote work is becoming more the norm. But if you're someone who doesn't read the syllabus, so to speak, you will not be able to work a remote job. I bring this up because if you go to any online forum that advertises remote jobs like Facebook groups or remote work subreddits, more often than not, a remote job will be posted and then people will ask questions like, where do I apply? Or similar things like it. But if you're a person with self-governance, you'll be proactive in finding that information when the company name has been given to you. You'll Google the company, locate the company website, go to careers and apply based on the directions given. But if you don't have self-governance, you'll just leave a comment asking how to do those things, and you end up communicating that you're not a good candidate for the job. Self-governance, it's a really important skill right now. Story 15, sewing. As a man, sewing is as important as cooking. It's a basic survival skill, and you don't have to be amazing at it either. Learn how to sew things together, it's a life changer. I have recently sewn Velcro straps onto my new gloves and winter coat so that I can make a seal between my coat sleeves and the gloves. I have poor blood circulation in my hands, and they crack when they get cold, which happens whenever even a small amount of heat escapes. I'm ready for this year's winter, and finally, I won't be cold anymore. No more bleeding hands. Story 16. The number of people I know who don't know how to start a fire is surprising. If you find yourself in a survival situation, starting a fire is an essential skill to have. Story 17. I see lots of people saying critical thinking or problem solving. I'll take it one step further. Reading instructions. So many broken things can be fixed by just reading the manual. Even babies have manuals. Just read the damn book. Story 18. How to cook. I found out my colleague's husband does not know how to cook and depends on her to prepare all his meals. I think it is just sad. Parents should teach their kids how to take care of themselves. If they do not have time, there are basic cooking classes for teenagers and young adults at a good price. Story 19:1. Being able to see the perspective of the other person and resolve conflict. Hold space for people and validate their feelings. Being able to influence other people's opinions. Not many people have these skills. Story 20. Emotional intelligence involves the identification and awareness of emotions, acceptance of emotions, and coping skills for emotions. Your emotions are valid and you feel things for a reason. The next step is processing why you feel that and what to do about it. Sometimes we are hungry, angry, feeling isolated, or we have not slept in a while, or things are just generally not great. But any emotion we feel is an indicator of something else going on. So what is that something else, and where do we need to focus? It sounds simple, but a lot of us grew up in environments where the message was, stop crying or I will give you something to cry about. So we learned early to push down our sadness, grief, and anger, and then got older not knowing why we were depressed and anxious all the time. We were not listening to ourselves. Emotions are good indicators, and the sooner we learn how to read them, the easier it becomes to navigate life and within ourselves. Story 21. In kindergarten, I learned the two basic things that most humans have forgotten how to practice. Mind your own business and keep your hands to yourself. Just imagine what our country, the United States, would be like. Story 22. Basic life and surviving skills. Thinking, managing money, speaking and speech, first aid, cooking, cleaning, emotional intelligence skills, dealing with problems, and a lot more. Story 23. Emotions are a huge part of all of us, but I found in life and a lot of my current roles that calm tends to not only prevail, but oftentimes the other person or people in any elevated situation will either break down and talk or vent, or go through the roof and leave, typically in some very wild behaviors. Either way, you've sort of instantly become the person to take the time to give it a second and see what's what, or the other person or people in question aren't ready for that calm and assured interaction and flip. It takes a lot of people learning, growth, and the thick skin type of demeanor to get there and truly understand it. But I believe this is one of the greatest skills anyone could learn. Story 24. Well, I was never taught how to clean, cook, iron, do my hair, what hygiene products were used for what, washing clothes, and other basic everyday skills. It was just never expected of me. My parents didn't want to burden me with things like that. But obviously, these are skills that everyone needs, and a lot of people take for granted that their parents teach them things like that. Even though my parents did these things for me with good intentions, it was honestly a major disservice, and as I got older, I felt really bad about my incompetence, but I didn't know what to do about it. Now, after a few years, I'm somewhat confident in these skills, but I wish I wouldn't have had to spend so much energy on learning them. Story 25. Critical thinking, money management, listening, empathy, improvisation, cooking, starting a fire, and most importantly, being aware and curious about the world around them. Not just the big picture, but also the things that surround them. I saw a post today from someone who moved into an apartment and could not figure out what the television antenna plug and the phone plug were. If that person was born in 2006, which would make them 18 and quite well positioned to afford a place of their own, They would have encountered both of those things at home while growing up. Story 26. Basic car maintenance. As a mechanic, I see so many people in the general public who can't even change a flat tire or check their own oil. It frustrates me whenever someone comes in wanting us to just fill up their washer fluid. Come on, you can't do that on your own? Story 27. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation. I didn't know a lick of it until I had to be trained in it for my job as a care worker. But it should be taught in every school as an international standard. Any one of us at any time could be the one to witness somebody going into cardiac arrest. A day of training can be the difference between life and death, and I'm sure it has been many times. Story 28. Grammar and punctuation. Half the posts on social media are unintelligible. Research, you don't have to know the answer, just where to find it. No, asking on social media is not where to find it. Story 29. Definitely emotional intelligence. I know many really clever people, but they have no idea how to cope with emotions or interact with people on an emotional level. Story 30. How to use a search function. Story 31. Basic computer skills. It's 2024. If you want to work in corporate America, know how to turn off your computer once a week and run your updates. I'm not a tech person like you is no longer acceptable. Story 32. This might sound kind of old-fashioned of me, but cursive. It doesn't mean that you have to use it, but I think that everybody should be able to sign their name and read it, along with write it if they want. I personally have always had horrible print handwriting and have found my cursive to be a lot better. Story 33. Cooking. It's all too easy these days to either order food for delivery or just take something out of the freezer and heat it up. Learning to cook, even just a few things, will not only save money but be better for your health and give you more delicious food. Story 34. How to make a budget with your finances. Learning CPR and first aid. To know there are different cultures aside from the one they find themselves in. Learn to cook some simple basic meals, pickle things, and bake bread. How to maybe find the suited profession for themselves. Simple use of a computer with Microsoft Office Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and so on. Learn about recycling, avoid littering, and food waste. Story 35. Ability to communicate effectively. Most people shut down or use unhealthy coping strategies. In my home, thankfully, everything we did was a conversation and every decision was made as a team. Our home was a unit, a team, a partnership with a no one left behind attitude. I realized when I went to college this wasn't most people's experience, and I had to help a lot of people in life become good and effective communicators. I wish everyone had it. I realize this is a total privilege, and I am extremely grateful for it. I just wish more people had this experience. Story 36. 1. Being grateful for every breath and loved ones. Being silent when angry. Take a moment to be silent and respond instead of reacting to a situation. Focus on one thing at a time, whether at work or in life. Story 37. Sign language should be learned along with vocal language, not just for deaf people inclusivity, which would already be a big plus for the whole community, but simply as a usual way to communicate silently with others. It revolutionizes nightclubs, allows speaking to your neighbor across the street without shouting, and enables communicating with a bad throat. I hate the sound of whispering, but that's now unnecessary. Story 38. Basic human physiology, such as how your body turns food into energy, some basic neuroscience, how diseases and pathogens affect our cells, how cancer works, how babies are made, and why you should not put things that do not have a flange in your butt. Story 39. Cynicism. Don't just believe what you are told. Do a little basic research. It doesn't matter if the truth is coming from a friend, a television presenter, or a politician. People are good at sharing stuff they heard, even when it is Pizzagate-level garbage. So don't just go with your preferred truth. Edit. I said cynicism, and it has been suggested that I mean skepticism. Feel free to go with either. I am both cynical and skeptical of a lot of what I hear and read. There is always someone pushing an agenda. Story 40. Emotional intelligence. I feel like it would have been easier on my body if I actively reminded myself that my feelings are valid, but they are not reality. Story 41. How to cook. I don't mean 5-star meals. but enough to be able to make yourself meals without making yourself sick. And when I say this, I also mean using all fresh ingredients, not some pre-prepared meal. I understand that after a long day, it's probably the last thing anyone wants to do. That's definitely how I usually feel. But being able to cook for oneself is just such a necessary skill for everyone, and yet I've met so many people that can't. Story 42. Prostate orgasm involves more involuntary pelvic thrusts than any other orgasm, male or female, and there's no cool-down time. Unfortunately, it's taboo due to being associated with the bottom, yet all women are comfortable with bottom play. Many are missing out, but eventually it will be normal, I'm certain. Bisexual and homosexual men have figured it out. Story 43. Backing into a parking space. First of all, being able to know where the edges of your vehicle are is an important skill. Some people find it easier than others, but it's worth learning. Secondly, backing into a parking space is the safest way to park. You're going to back up either way, so doing it when you have the most knowledge of the surrounding area and can block the road or aisle to control traffic is safest.